All right. Thank you, everyone, for joining me today in this session. My name is Peter Abu Hashim. I'm from Hub 71 Product and Business Development Team. Today, I'll be giving you an overview of Abu Dhabi's tech ecosystem, which is driven by Hub 71, introducing you to what Hub 71 is as a concept, what type of programs we have for startups, as well as other entities that are trying to innovate, and try to introduce you to the programs that we have and how you can potentially join our ecosystem. So let me start off by presenting Hub 71 as a concept. Back in 2019, the government of Abu Dhabi, and under the wider economic strategy of Gadan 21, decided to position Abu Dhabi as a global tech ecosystem. Now, for those of you who don't know Abu Dhabi is a quite central geographic location. It's one of the largest economies in the world. Abu Dhabi is it's the capital of the UAE. It's ranked one of the fifth most friendly business environments in the world. It's quite friendly to foreign founders, and it's quite a competitive economy, and it's a quite fast-moving economy. Now, as the tech ecosystem of Abu Dhabi, we're backed by the key government entities, and that's the Abu Dhabi Executive Office and Mubadala, that's the Sovereign Wealth Fund of Abu Dhabi. So in this strategy in 2019, Abu Dhabi decided, let's build a tech ecosystem out of Abu Dhabi. Mubadala naturally is the closest entity to run this ecosystem as a sovereign wealth fund, as an investor. And that's how Hub 71 was created. Now, if we think about it, to create an ecosystem, we need a lot of partners to be involved. And throughout our journey in launching this ecosystem, we had a lot of close strategic partners that were part of this journey, from the Abu Dhabi Executive Office to the ADGM, which is the free zone that we sit in physically as a space, and that our startups are regulated through, to the Abu Dhabi Investment Office, and to large technology companies like Microsoft, who's been a very close partner of ours, and SoftBank. The way we thought about building an ecosystem, and the tech ecosystem specifically, is always startup focused. So the startups are always at the center of this ecosystem. And we know that we need a lot of different stakeholders to engage in this ecosystem to make it quite active. So at the center of this ecosystem are startups. And the way startups join this ecosystem is through applying to become part of Hub 71. So step one for startups, you apply to be part of Hub 71. You join the program and you benefit from equity-free incentives. And I'll walk you through the details of these incentives later on. But as you join this ecosystem, you have a pool of stakeholders and partners around to support you. So looking at academia, at universities, at the development houses, these are all partners that support us in upskilling the existing talent that come with the startups coming into Abu Dhabi and into Hub 71. At the same time, supporting these startups reach the right talent and recruit the right talent. We work very closely with global technology companies to enable knowledge sharing, as well as supporting these startups go global beyond the boundaries of Abu Dhabi. We are very close with government entities and regulators. So we have around 10 different government entities out of Abu Dhabi and UAE that work closely with us on their innovation mandate, on policy requirements for startups, and constantly working on making the life of startups and setting up businesses out of Abu Dhabi easier. Corporates also play a very big role. Corporates are eventually the end customers of these startups. So we have around 15 very close corporate partners that engage very closely with Hub 71. They're constantly on the lookout for new technologies, for new startups that are coming into Hub 71, always engaging in proof of concepts with these startups, and eventually signing deals. We've seen a lot of deals happen between the corporates that are physically based out of Hub 71 and the startups that we have out of Hub 71. We've seen more than 20 deals happen with values exceeding tens of millions of dollars. The next type of partner that's really key for any startup joining this ecosystem is funds. So we all know that cash is king for startups, and startups heavily rely on fundraising. Naturally, with our proximity to Mubadala, given that we're a Mubadala company, we have access to the Mubadala MENA VC fund, which is a fund that invests in startups and in funds in the MENA region. We also have close to 20 different VCs that are actively engaged with Hub 71, with a total asset under management exceeding $2 billion that's available for startups raising funds. So we're always engaging with the VCs, understanding what type of startups they're looking at, understanding from startups what type of funds they're looking at, matchmaking them together. And if you look at numbers over the past 2.5 years, our 100 startups out of Hub 71 has raised more than 1.5 billion dirhams in funding. And this is how the ecosystem is shaping. And finally, we have the accelerators and programs or partner programs that we heavily rely on to make sure that we get good quality pipeline of startups into Hub 71. At the same time, offer our startup access to such programs. That's how the ecosystem works together. To activate this ecosystem, we have a few programs and supporting elements that we offer to these startups. So the first element that I briefly touched upon earlier is the incentive program. When we launched the Hub 71 back in 2019, one of the first programs that we launched was an equity-free incentive program. The logic behind it is for startups that are coming into a new market like Abu Dhabi and expanding out of the MENA region, the equity-free incentive program supports them in accessing incentives or grants in a way that reduce their operational cost out of operating from a new market. We have a lot of programs focusing on funding, which support startups get ready to fundraise, at the same time support them in accessing the right funds and VCs that are quite active in the ecosystem. We have a lot of partnerships with other entities around the world, other hubs, other funds, other corporates around the world that support startups in going global out of Abu Dhabi. So when we say Hub 71 is an Abu Dhabi tech ecosystem, it's not only limited to the Abu Dhabi or UAE market, it's also across the globe. So we have partnerships and with the support of the Mubadala network as well globally through regions like Egypt, like Russia, like the States, like Europe, that support our startups in going global as well as leveraging the knowledge from other regions. Abu Dhabi in general and being part of the ADGM jurisdiction is a very business-friendly environment. Opening bank accounts is facilitated for our startups, and that's usually a big pain that startups face. Getting the license and the visas and the regulation set up is quite expedited given our close partnership with the regulators around us. The Hub 71 community in general is a very vibrant community. So we have 3 floors of physical space in Abu Dhabi, in Al Maria Island, which is the center of Abu Dhabi, with close to 1,500 people day in, day out walking into this ecosystem. So this vibrant community of startups, of entrepreneurs, of like-minded people is very beneficial as well to startups to enable this knowledge sharing between like-minded people. We have exceptional talent that's local as well as international people coming into Hub 71. And this for us is how this ecosystem is shaped up and how this all comes together. Now, I mentioned briefly some of these points. Being part of Hub 71 and on top of the equity-free incentives that are offered gives you access to the market that you need, so the customers, and that's not just locally, but globally, integrates you into this vibrant Abu Dhabi tech ecosystem, opens funding opportunity with the proximity to the VCs and investors and Mubadala as well, supports you in launching this business in a business-friendly environment, and as well upskills your existing talent and supports you in accessing the right talent to build and grow your startup out of Hub 71. We've been launching several exciting programs over the past 2.5 years since we launched. And the main logic behind these programs is always focusing on 3 key pillars. How do we open the right market for our startups to generate the maximum revenue? How to support startups in raising funds, and how to upskill and attract new talent. One of the programs that has been quite successful for us is the Outliers program. We noticed there's a lot of good engagement between our corporate and government partners and the startups in terms of the big corporations are procuring technology and innovating through the help of startups, and the startups are selling their product to these corporations. So we structured this engagement a bit further through launching the Outliers program. And this was the first of its kind last year to be launched, where we had 6 very close partners, ADCB, Department of Health, Ittihad, Mashrik, MasterCard, Thales, that came to us and said, we have business challenges. We want support from Hub 71 to attract the right startups for us. So we went out to the world together as partners and as an Abu Dhabi ecosystem and said, if you're a startup with the right solution, come and work with one of these 6 entities, do a proof of concept, sign a deal, be housed out of Hub 71, get the right incentives in place, and we'll support you throughout your journey of growing and raising funds out of Abu Dhabi and taking your startup to the next level. Talent is also key, so we have a lot of mentorship programs that happen organically between the community as well as structured programs that take place. We also focus on earlier stage startups, so entrepreneurs with ideas. If you don't have a startup yet to apply to the Hub 71 program, we have other programs like the Ventures Lab, where an individual, an entrepreneur, whether it's a student, whether it's an employee who wants to quit his corporate job or her corporate job and build their dream idea, you can join our Ventures Lab program, where you apply with a very early product or just an idea. You're plugged into a 9-month program where there's a team of experts building hand in hand with you the product, making sure you get the right funding in place, the right know-how, the right expertise, being housed in an ecosystem, which is Hub 71, which offers you access to funds, to the customers, to the regulators. And 9 months down the line, this idea becomes a startup that goes to market and is housed out of Abu Dhabi's tech ecosystem, which is Hub 71. Now, maybe going a bit more details into the incentives, we offer incentives worth north of $100,000 that are equity free, which come in form of in-kind support. So it's a flexible menu of incentives that you choose from to reduce your operational cost out of Abu Dhabi, be it housing units in Abu Dhabi, or health insurance, or setting up your company and the visas or the office space. There's a list of services that you would require to grow your startup that we could offer out of this incentive, equity-free incentive that we provide to startups. Now, it's good to understand how the community looks like. So I mentioned that we have 100 startups plus out of Hub 71 today. We're currently sector agnostic, but we see some big trends in sectors within our cohort. So close to 20% of our startups are fintech, followed by health tech around 13%, AI and big data as well as a big cohort. We have a lot of software and SaaS startups, ed tech, e-commerce, mobility, and transport. So we're quite a diverse portfolio of companies in Hub 71. It's quite diverse from a nationality perspective as well. So there's more than 22 different HQs that are operating now out of Hub 71, so from 20 plus different countries, more than 30 nationalities in Hub 71. And the split of the stages of the startups are mostly close to 60% of seed and 35+% of emergent, which is Series A plus. That's a few logos and glimpses of the companies that are part of our cohort that we're very proud of and that are growing quite fast out of our ecosystem. And a few examples of the partners that I mentioned earlier. We have very close partnerships with different hubs around the world, with the corporations out of Abu Dhabi, UAE corporations, as well as global corporations, and several active VC funds and investors that are actively looking at new pipelines of startups and supporting these startups in fundraising and taking their business to the next level. That's more or less what Hub 71 is. Thank you for attending this session. We can open the floor now for some questions. So I have my colleague here joining us for a few questions, and then we can take it from there.
Thank you very much for sharing your insights, Peter. It's always great to hear how entities like Hub 71 are driving the ecosystem. And then you think about how a few years ago, the whole startup space was more sporadic. You'd have a company pop up here and there. But now you mentioned communities, how it's a wider community. And that really changes the whole landscape and the playing field. And I think it's brilliant in that regard. And obviously helping these companies solve their pain points, which they've had many, and everyone knows setting up a startup is never a walk in the park. So to have that extra layer of support, they can then aspire to be like some of the big names from Abu Dhabi, like you think the truckers and the Pure Harvest smart farms of tomorrow. So thank you for that. That's been wonderful. In terms of some of the questions that have come through, then let's just take a look over here. So the first one that I have to throw your way is, what is the one big mistake that startups make when they try to establish themselves in Abu Dhabi's ecosystem?
That's a very good question, actually. I think and naturally out of a startup's life cycle, startups do make a lot of mistakes, and that's the way to grow your business to the next level. One common mistake that we notice, and especially related to the Abu Dhabi ecosystem, is positioning Abu Dhabi as a market where the startup comes in just to sell their product or try to get some funding and then try to operate from somewhere else. When we're trying to build an ecosystem, yes, funding is a big element in this ecosystem. So startups that come in can raise a lot of funds quickly or in an expedited way through our partnerships. Selling your product through the access to market and the close corporate and government partners that we have also is an expedited way. But to get the full benefit out of this ecosystem that's being driven by the government, by the decision makers of the country, I think one big mistake that startups would make, and that we're trying to push as well to support them and not making, is making use of the full ecosystem. So when I say full ecosystem, community is a big part of it. So being physically present in this community where there's 100 similar startups that have made hundreds of mistakes before you did, being close to them, talking to them, learning from them, understanding where they did mistakes so you can avoid them is very key. Being physically in this community and close to the partners like the funds even expedites faster your fundraising process. Being physically in the community and then benefiting from the corporate entities and the government entities that are quite active in this space. And there's a lot of examples like the Department of Health, for example. Their main innovation arm operates out of Hub 71. A lot of our close partners' main innovation arm operate out of Hub 71. So being physically there, even if your product might not fit someone like the Department of Health or an Aldar or an Etisalat who are close partners, you will have open discussions where naturally or organically you would meet up with these people and end up having an opportunity that you did not think of without being part of this ecosystem. So I think one key advice I would tell startups looking into Abu Dhabi market and MENA market in general is choose Abu Dhabi as your main place to operate out of and benefit from this ecosystem, because there's a lot of consolidated effort from all the required stakeholders, be it government, the corporate, the funds, the universities that are working in this one physical space to make sure that your success is their success. And that's what would take your business to the next level.
It's interesting because you mentioned partnerships, and I think that ties in very nicely with my next question, which is, what factors, in your opinion, would further facilitate the continuous growth of Abu Dhabi's ecosystem? We know it's been growing from strength to strength, but what is that extra impetus that can take it to the next level?
Yeah, I think that's something as a Hub 71 team we think about every day as we come into the office. How do we build this ecosystem and how do we grow it? So the first step for us back in 2019, early 2020 was let's start attracting these startups. Let's build a physical space, put out the incentives to attract these startups, reduce their cost of relocating and using Abu Dhabi as their LaunchPad into the region. But then the key and the secret sauce for this ecosystem has been partnerships. The more partnerships you have, the more consolidated effort you have between different entities, the stronger your ecosystem will be. Instead of corporates creating their own innovation efforts and working in silos, instead of having several tech hubs working in silos with the same message out of Abu Dhabi, instead of having different funds trying to do the same thing, what has been working for our ecosystem has been, let's bring all these efforts under one roof and let's consolidate these efforts and complement each other rather than create different silos. And this has been working quite well, and I think that's something we will double down on in the future.
Awesome. And then there's a couple more questions, and these are more Hub 71 centric as well, which I'm sure you'll have some good insights to share on along with the talk as well. For a startup, like let's say if I was a startup and I wanted to join Hub 71, what would be the criteria for me to position myself well enough to be accepted onto Hub 71?
That's a very common question that we get as well as Hub 71 team. I think we look at different stages of startups, and this links to different programs. If you're at early stage, meaning you don't have a company yet, you have a very basic product or still an idea, you would apply to the Ventures Lab program, where what we need to know is that you're a committed founder who understands the business behind this idea. Even if you're not capable of building this idea alone, that's the main reason why this program exists. As long as we see good commitment from the founders, more or less rational idea with market potential, this is what we look for in early stage. And that's where we build through the 9-month program into a company, into a startup. The next program is the incentive program, and that focuses more on the seed plus. So post MVP, you have some market traction, you have some funding. You would apply to the incentive program. We would definitely look at the team. For us, the team is the most important aspect. We would look at the product market fit, validated with our partners like the corporates and the governments. We would look at the funding traction, also have our VCs help us select the startups, because eventually the startups that come into Hub 71, the VCs have their eye out for them to invest in them. So we need them early on to support us in understanding which startups are investable. And then a big element that we look at is the commitment to Abu Dhabi and the commitment to being part of this ecosystem, because this would benefit the startup and maximize the value they get out of the ecosystem. So depending on the stage where you're at, whether it's early stage or the seed Series A type of startup, these are the criteria we look at. The way to join this ecosystem is through an application online. So on our website, you would see the different programs that we offer based on what stage you're at, and then you would fill in an application, and then these are the criteria we would assess your company based on.
Awesome. And I guess we can have one last one just for the audience over here who want to have a checklist, if you would like, of what they should look at when applying to Hub 71. What would you say would fit onto that checklist as like a quick key takeaways?
So definitely, I would say understanding what you're going into, understanding that Abu Dhabi, or if Abu Dhabi is the right market for you to use as a launchpad into the region. So one is committing to the region in general. Two is the application process is quite thorough. So we would go into a lot of details into the business and the financials and the traction. I would say be as clear as possible and show as many quick wins or nice case studies that you've achieved as a company to help us better assess your startup. And then I would say put yourself in the audience shoes. If you're an investor, if you're a corporate entity that's going through these applications, what would you like to see in this business? How can you prove that this business is the next unicorn that will grow out of this region?
Amazing. And thank you very much once again, Peter. It's been wonderful to have you talk about Abu Dhabi's ecosystem and how Hub 71's been driving it. And I'm sure the audience have also gained a lot from this session about how if they want to pursue and establish their own startups in Abu Dhabi, they can take a lot of the learning lessons from today. So I appreciate you taking out the time and joining us.
Thank you, Asad, for having me. And thank you to the Microsoft team as well for having me. If you have any more questions as audience, please feel free to visit our website as Hub 71 and reach out to us if you have any additional questions. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you once again.